Welcome to Ever Beauty. I'm Angela, and today I am joined with my good friend Radhaa, who is such an inspiration, such a wise, beautiful soul. I'm so happy to have her on for a little chat. Radhaa, welcome to Ever Beauty.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you for being here. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about this new book that you have, the Galactic Goddess book. But I just wanted to get a little bit of some of the little gems that you have offered in this amazing book. I've only begun to read it, but it's just such a gift, and I thought we could hit on a few things today. But I wanted to say also that Radhaa is the founder of the Goddess Code Academy and also the Galactic Goddess podcast, which are phenomenal. And then you also have your Goddess Code activations trademarked now. So those are specific healing modalities. Is that right?
Yes, Goddess Activations is and I need to take you through a session. That would be great.
I would love to.
Yeah, Goddess Activations. I work with 11 specific goddesses. Yes, and I love it because we all of them have this inside of us, and sometimes we just need to have a facilitator help us activate that. We have access to all these different archetypes within us. And I think it's so important for women to know, like, it's not just one or the other of anything. I think in our society, there's so much pressure to be like good girl or bad girl, but there, I mean, like, that's ridiculous. We have a full spectrum of beingness. We can be artists, we can be mothers, we can be wives, we can be leaders. There's so much that we can be, and we don't have to just stay with the old stereotypes. I think we're starting to realize we've outgrown those, that we're so much more dimensional than just 3D, just one dimension of ourselves, and really spreading our wings to be the fullness of who we are is really what it's about. So that's why I love Goddess Activation.
And I think even though I haven't experienced the Goddess Activation treatment or ritual with you yet, I think that what you're saying is what I'm getting from your book, the Galactic Goddess book. I think that's kind of the how to what you're describing. This is how we really fully embrace ourselves and awaken everything that's within us. And I mean, do you see it that way as kind of a guide?
I do see it that way. I see that we are allowed to have a full spectrum of emotions. We're allowed to have a full experience in life. It's not just like, I'm just this all the time. We go through so much, and women are exceptionally strong. As women, we go through a lot of different experiences, and we have our own challenges as a collective. And I talk about a lot of stuff very openly, not because I want to shame or embarrass anybody or anything like that. I want to bring conversations out in the open so that we can start to liberate ourselves from the shame, from the confines that we've been held to. We're usually supposed to just be like, how was your day? Great. How was your day? Great. And then we don't have any more to if we can have deeper conversations, we can get to a lot more of a richer life and deeper self-love for ourselves and for others, acceptance for others as well.
Wonderful. And I think that even the way that your book, the Galactic Goddess book, is structured, it's this deep dive. It starts out as this deep dive into a theme or a topic, a story that you have to share from your own life. It's very much a memoir, and that's the memoir part of it. And then you bring in the life lessons that relate to that memoir, and then the goddess that can facilitate or act as a conduit to that specific lesson. So it's, that's what I thought was so amazing about how effective it is as a guidebook, because it does give you all of you're sharing so much of your own wisdom and sharing yourself, but then there you work the goddesses in there too, which is so amazing. And I think that that's something that is the collective consciousness, and for women especially, that's being more and more embraced. And just for people who aren't as aware of who the goddesses are, what the goddesses are all about, I think people are very comfortable with the concept of God as more that's more common. And even working with the archangels and the angels and guides, a lot of, at least people in our circles who will be our audiences, are kind of familiar with those things. But how do you explain a little bit? Can you explain a little bit more about the goddesses and what their role is in supporting and helping us?
Absolutely. I think a lot of our archetypes got very rigid along the years through the patriarchy. And if we go back time, we can see, from the beginning of time, they found these little sculptures of women, these like beautiful, like chubby little women, and they all represented the divine feminine. They were all over the world. There were signs that were from the beginning of time that the divine feminine was very much held in high regard across the world. And that they didn't have statues of God, they had statues of goddess. So much since then, and you have to remember that it's man who writes history. It's actually his story, but her story isn't told. So we need to come to an understanding that her story is there too. And that by deleting her story, by erasing her story and only highlighting his story, we're not getting the full picture. We have a huge imbalance in our society, and that's shown up so much in every aspect of our life, from our workplace, from, a certain hierarchy, really. And we really need to come to a place to bring things back to sort of ground them into evenness, into reality, and also into the higher realms. Spirituality has sort of taken the divine feminine out of the equation. And I definitely believe in the divine masculine and the divine father energy. And I believe, just as I believe in the divine feminine and the divine mother energy, we are part of a whole. So it's part of the Shakti Shiva. It's a divine feminine, divine masculine. It's Jesus and Mary. They actually, they say that they walk together, that they were actually partners in divine union. But of course, they always want to make the woman a whore or something that's less than, because then we start to think of ourselves as less than. And women have very much been the mercy of these a lot of fables and false stories, that we really need to start doing our own research. Anyone can do the research and understand that the divine feminine held a very strong position, and that at that time there was probably a lot more peace, and so we want to bring that feminine energy back, because if you don't, there's an imbalance. That's where you're seeing discordance in the world. When we bring that balance back within ourselves, if everyone does, we will have a balance. It's the imbalance within that creates the imbalance outside. So we're simultaneously within and without, as above as below, that sort of thing,
Absolutely. And what you're making me think of when you said that when the feminine was more empowered in history, in human history, that was more peaceful and it was actually better for men and women and children in society and everything. There's a book written by a professor here in where I am in Atlanta at Emory, named Melvin Connor. That's called Women After All. And he actually goes back, I don't know if you've read this book, you would really enjoy that, but he does talk about it, trace it back historically, and you're right, it was absolutely more peaceful society, and there was much more equality. when women had more power in society.
Please
Oh,
proceed.
yeah. So that's historically factual. I mean, he is a professor of anthropology, and he talks a lot about what you're saying in that book. And the other thing that struck me when you're talking about the imbalance and kind of what's missing in spirituality, I think that I've had so many conversations with people about spirituality and religion where they just feel like something's missing in religion, that it just hits them, it doesn't resonate, it's kind of falls flat. And then when they really find their way spiritually, it's more, what you're working with, the energy and the goddesses and the angels and the God, all of that is so much more fulfilling for them spiritually. And it's kind of how so many people are finding their path now spiritually.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think we have to come to balance. I mean, I go to church occasionally. I really especially like the churches in Europe. They have so much of that history. They have just an energy to them. But when we want to think about imbalance, like you look at the churches and wonder why is there so much against harm that goes to children that's coming out? And if we had more women perhaps at the forefront that were all being the sacred watchers as well and having more awareness, things might be different. And that's been across the board, giving that power, like giving that almighty power over to quote unquote authority. And, that's what I did with my doctor. And that's what made me sick. I gave my power over to the great doctor who knows it all and told me it was safe. And we really need to start reclaiming our own power and our own sovereignty, making decisions not based on just what authorities say, but based on your own truth. Whatever I share, whatever I say, want your own research and feel free to take what you want and to release what you don't. I'm never here to tell people like this is how, I think that's fine. And I'm only here to share my perspective, my story, and what's really helped me through my process, because we've all gone through gut-wrenching things in our life.
Yes.
And for me, the goddesses have really upheld. Yeah. They really upheld and helped me to higher ground. And I believe the goddesses can help us to remember our divinity, to remember our strength, to remember our gifts, to remember our abilities, our artistic abilities. Each goddess has a different divine essence and different code for healing and awakening. So we are awakening that within us simultaneously, whether we use the goddesses or not. But the goddesses, for me, really help us take, and for my clients, help them remember who they are at the core,
Lovely. Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to, when speaking of gut-wrenching experiences, you are so courageous in sharing some of those from your own life. And I think it's inspiring to all women, because we do feel so deeply and we have a special sensitivity that we can be easily damaged by these kind of experiences that you described specifically. You shared your stepmother being extremely verbally abusive to you as a young girl, and you write this with just such incredible, it's so vivid, and it really shines a light on how insidiously silent this type of abuse is. I think so many women will relate to that. And you talk about also how it affects women, especially in how it damages their inner voice, their ability, the throat chakra, being able to express your own voice and be true to yourself. And you share and you tie all that together. That was really amazing to read, and how you actually felt like, you said that you felt like a mute, and that's hard to imagine knowing you now, because you share so much now. But do you want to share anything specifically about that, the stagnation of your voice, and how you overcame that from going from a mute to like now an international speaker and author, and how just incredibly open and sharing you are now?
Absolutely. You know, I have to say that I think working as a healer has also been a catalyst for my own healing. I've done a tremendous amount of healing work on my own, on my throat chakra. I was willing to look at my wounds. I was willing to dive deep. And then when I started to work with others, it really became clear to me how everyone goes through something that is very painful, that shuts them down in life somewhere, and that how we are all reclaiming pieces and parts of ourselves. I'm not the only one that's gone through this, and I share because not because I want anyone to feel sorry. I don't think of myself as an empowered woman who used my experiences to empower myself, and I want others to know that they can empower themselves too. That just because you have had an abusive situation of any kind does not mean that you cannot come back to the divinity of who you are, that you are not lost, that you are not broken, that even though we may break, we can put ourselves back together even better. In Japan, this thing where if a vase, like a ceramics breaks, they use gold. They used to use gold to put it between the cracks to put it back together.
Wow.
And that is very symbolic of the work I do and what I believe in, that when we break, it's an opportunity to bring in more light, more gold, more healing. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful, because it goes against the tendency, I think, that we've been taught in this culture, in this society, to stifle and just push, those emotions under the rug and just pick up and move on, just kind of ignoring the wounds and just pick up and move on. And that's how to be strong. But really, how to be strong is to, like you said, to really face your wounds and to heal them, and know that you can heal them in a way that actually makes you stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I share so much of my intimate story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to come across like, oh, I'm just in a perfect position. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that just writes self-help books and pretends like I'm just sailing above it all. Like, I want people to know I've been through it all. I'm right there with you. I'm not above you. I'm your friend walking side by side with you, understanding that as humans, we are here to go through so much, but we're here to grow so much. And we grow together. And when we share our voices, we are liberating ourselves, but also others. We are here to share our stories. And that's why I'm creating this book. I'm doing my next book, Awakening Starseeds, to invite people to join me to share their awakening stories. And knowing that the stories are not just fluffy and love and light, it's like, that's part of it, but it's like, what have you gone through? And how has that helped you? Because, depression is a very common thing, and we don't talk about that in our society. But then when something happens and somebody commits suicide or does something, we're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. If only I had known.
Right.
Well, why don't we start having conversations now? Preventative, you know what I mean? Let's talk about stuff so we don't have to go to those extremes, and we can start integrating who we are now.
Yes, and understand that we're not alone, that everyone goes through these gut-wrenching things, and it's just part of being human, and it's part of this life. Do you want to share how people can get in touch with you if they have an awareness story that they may be able to participate in your next book project by sharing that?
Absolutely. So please reach out, and the email is Radhaa, Radhaa, publishing, it's just publishing with no S, at gmail.com, and maybe you can share the email. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, just reach out, and I have a great and incredible chief technical advisor, Mike Pistano, and he'll answer all your questions. We'll get on a call. We'll just talk, and let's connect. Absolutely. I want to hear your stories. And this is going to be such an incredible book. It's along the lines of like chicken, what is it? Chicken soup for the soul.
Yes. Chicken soup
but it's
for
more
the
of like
soul.
a,
This
but
is
it's got
the new version. This is the new spiritual version of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, 2.0, the galactic version.
I love it. That's
Galactic
so powerful. That's going to be amazing. And the Galactic Goddess book is your second book, correct? So this will be the third, the Starseed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and it's for everyone. It's for everyone to come and join. This is not just my book. I'm facilitating it through Radhaa Publishing, and I'm inviting people to come join, come share your story, come get something off of your chest. And this is a really healing process too. It's very cathartic as we tell our stories and share these parts of ourselves. We have a amazing cathartic healing that begins inside, because we're starting to integrate these energies. And by coming to a full acceptance of that, we are able to feel more whole and complete. So it's an offering for authors to come forward and share with the world more about who they are, what their stories are, and to come out of what I like to call the spiritual closet, because it's time to share. There's no other time.
Yes, and in case you're wondering what this has to do with beauty, because this is Ever Beauty, my blog and everything for women over 40 who want to be better than ever and embrace their inner beauty. And I think that this is it. This is how you really become whole and radiant and full of life and vibrance. And this is really key. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. And it really is the path to inner beauty, true inner beauty, that we feel deeply and experience and live the beauty in our lives. So that's such a gift, Radhaa. And I wanted to share a quick quote from your book, the Galactic Goddess book, that kind of wraps up what we're talking about. And it's just a piece of what this book has to offer, but there's so much, and I hope we'll talk again and have many conversations about just all the wisdom and the profound insights in this book. But let me read from page 42. You say, awareness grows within us like a seed. As we water the seed of awareness, the seed starts to grow. This slow, steady growth eventually creates a garden within us that nourishes and heals oneself. All good things result from invested time, energy, effort, and the willingness to feel to heal. So not suppressing, but feel to heal. So good. I know what it's like to try to numb out the pain, to pretend it didn't exist, yet it only grew as I ignored it. I now understand, after much avoidance, that the only way out is through. It was I who could release myself from this cycle of pain and suffering. So my motto became, I feel it to heal. I've taken responsibility for my wounds, choosing to be patient and know that trauma is not released overnight. I give myself the time and the space to breathe, reflect, and do things to heal. It's possible to go through the dark night of the soul and come out of it even more whole and complete. So no matter how dark it may get, never give up on yourself, your inner work, on healing yourself. After the rain comes, the rainbow and the sun always shine again. So thank you so much. I just had to, there's so much more I could.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I could read, there's so much more I could read and share, but I encourage everyone to get this book, You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it from Amazon. We'll link directly to Radhaa's information, and it's just such a gift. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me on. You're such a bright, beautiful soul. I mean, I'm so grateful to know you through all these years. We met in Hollywood, and I see so much of your like coming through. And like you said, you know, the beauty comes from within, and it really emanates. Like that is the glow.
And that's,
you know, and everything else is just, you know, bonus. So
yes. And that's the awareness that I know you want for all women to find that beauty within themselves, to find the goddess within themselves. Thank you for everything you do.
Yes. So thank you. And thanks for having me, love. Thank you for joining, guys. I hope that you'll pick up the book. And if you want part of Awakening Starseeds, you are welcome. I open my heart to receive you and sending you so much love. Thank you.
Bye-bye.